Welcome into the weekly Main Street Media TV high school football wrap-up show. How did your team do last week? Who had a big week? How's their season going? Those questions and more will be answered as we hear from the sports editors and writers from your local newspaper on the action from high school football fields across Middle Tennessee last week. If you're seeing this in Middle Tennessee, chances are Main Street Media has a newspaper that serves your community. Go to mainstreetmediatn.com to find the local Main Street paper in your area. When you find it, maybe consider signing up for a subscription to keep up with all the news, sports, events, issues, and more that we've got lined up for you every single week. Well, that's enough for me. Let's get this week's high school football wrap-up going with Wade Neely in Western Middle Tennessee.
What's up, folks? Wade Neely here. I'm your sports editor over in Hickman County. I'm your sports editor in Dickson County as well as Cheatham County. And it's time for a recap of what we saw on the gridiron over the weekend. We go back to Friday night where the Cheatham County Cubs ran wild on Innovation Academy. 26-0 was your final. Cheatham County had been on a little bit of a roll. They'd won 2 in a row, but then fell in that epic rivalry showdown versus Harpeth in week 4. Nice bounce back win for Coach Gary Hallstad again and his bunch. 26-0 was your final there. Speaking of rivalries among Cheatham County schools, it was the battle for the I-24, I-40 trophy. Sycamore hadn't won this game since 2019. They had paused for a couple of seasons due to region scheduling, but they were back on the gridiron, and Sycamore made up for lost time, running all over Harpeth 41-10. Hicks Hunter doing Hicks Hunter things, running for close to 200 yards. Catching a 75-yard touchdown. He did it all, 4+ touchdowns, and Sycamore again cruises to a 41-10 win over rival Harpeth. And finally, talk about a bounce-back win. Week 1, Coach Patrick Smith and the Hickman County Bulldogs looked impressive versus Harpeth. They dropped their next 3, but they bounced back in a big way Friday night, defeating Montgomery Central 37-14. Huge shout out and huge victory for the Bulldogs, who need it now as they head into their region schedule for 2025. So congrats to all of our teams. A lot of hard fought contests, and especially a big shout out to the Hickman County Bulldogs on that nice victory versus Montgomery Central. I'm Wade Neely saying so long, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Wade. Casey Patrick covered the rest of Western Middle Tennessee. Take it away, Casey.
Hi, my name is Casey Patrick. I'm the sports reporter for the Dickson Post, Cheatham County Exchange, and the Hickman County Times. I'm going to give you a little rundown in just a few of the teams that are in my coverage area. We'll start with the game I was at on Friday night. Creekwood hosted Battle Creek. Battle Creek in their first season ever as a football program. Creekwood was able to get into the win column with a 41-20 win over them. Creekwood had held a lead in the second half of every game this year. They were finally able to finish one out. Good for the Redhawks there. Dickson County on Saturday took down Northwest 45-19. Dickson County moves to 4-1 on the year. They've had a really good start. And then we'll finish with East Hickman. East Hickman lost 21-14 to Waverly Central. East Hickman had a 14-0 lead at halftime. Coach Austin said they had a few penalties and issues in the second half. Waverly Central able to come back and get that win, 21-14. So this is just a few of the games in my area. Y'all stay safe this week. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Casey. We have some amazing sponsors who support our community and your schools all year long. Let's stop and hear from them. We'll be right back.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25+ years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back. Maurice Patton is here to tell us all about the action down in southern Middle Tennessee.
As we reach the halfway point of the football season here in Southern Middle Tennessee, congratulations go out to a couple of our local squads. First off, Zion Christian getting a touchdown pass from Kingston Denny to Trey Johnson and making it stand up in a 7-0 win over visiting Christian Community. First win of the season for Spoon Semlar and the Eagles there. They improved to 1-3 on the year, again, with that 7-0 win over Christian Community. Also, Spring Hill goes on the road, picks up a 23-11 win at Maplewood. Lionel Brooks rushes for 167 yards and a touchdown. Also, the Raiders get a fumble recovery for a touchdown from Seneca Caldwell, improving to 1-3 under new coach Josh Taylor, picking up his first victory of the season there. Battle Creek goes on the road in Region 5 4A action, coming off of their first varsity win. The Grizzlies fall over at Creekwood 41-20. This game was 27-20 late, but Creekwood pulled away with a couple of fourth quarter touchdowns. Chris Lemming scores twice for the Grizzlies, catches a touchdown pass, finishes with 3 catches for 99 yards. Colton Barber, 265 passing yards in the loss for the Grizzlies, who fall to 1-4 overall, and again 0-1 in Region 5 4A, dropping their region opener on the road. Richland continues to roll against higher competition. The Raiders go to Community, pick up a 42-8 victory, their third win against bigger schools after previously defeating Spring Hill and White House Heritage. Struggling against Class 1A foes, 0-2 in 1A, 0-1 in Region 5 1A, but a big win for the Raiders this past weekend. Colin Cagle, 8 carries for 85 yards and a pair of touchdowns. This one was done early. Richland leading 42-0 at the break and giving up a late touchdown. But again, the Raiders 42-8 on the road at Community. Summit drops his fourth straight, falling to Lincoln County 35-13. Got a first quarter kickoff return from Carter Kaczynski, 92 yards to make it a 14-7 game. It was 21-7 at the half, but that was about as close as the Spartans could get. So again, Summit falling to 1-4 with a 35-13 loss to Lincoln County. Undefeated Lincoln County winning that one, 35-13. In Region 6 6A action, Independence improves to 1-1 with a 35-6 win over visiting Coffee County. Eli Garlington rushes for a pair of second quarter touchdowns, finishes with 101 rushing yards on 8 carries. Matthew Horner throws for 3 touchdown passes, finishes with 175 passing yards. Again, Independence improves to 2-2 on the season, 1-1 in Region 6 6A play with that 35-6 win over visiting Coffee County. Loretto picks up its second straight victory under new coach Bryce Glass down in Collinwood 28-7. Eli Chapman and Andrew Riley combined for 292 rushing yards. Riley scored twice. Loretto, after an 0-3 start, is now 2-3 overall with that non-region win, 28-7 over Collinwood. In Region 5 2A action, Summertown improves to 3-2 overall, 1-1 in region play with a 43-12 win over Scotts Hill. The Eagles score 29 second quarter points, 3 of those on the ground. They lead 36-6 at halftime, and no contest against the still winless Scotts Hill. Michaela Powell continues to make big plays for Summertown, catching a 48-yard touchdown before halftime in that one. Again, Summertown 43, Scotts Hill 12. Also in Region 5 2A, it was Mount Pleasant with a 50-14 win over winless Riverside out of Decatur County. Peyton Niehaus with 3 catches for 109 yards. All 3 of those catches resulted in touchdowns. Also, Nazir Carter with a 35-yard pick 6. Mount Pleasant improving to 4-1 overall, 2-0 in Region 5 2A play. Finally, Columbia Central and Lawrence County met in a Region 4 5A matchup at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Daniel Booker with 132 rushing yards and a pair of touchdowns, including a 51-yarder to seal a 38-22 victory over the visiting Wildcats. Booker finished with 196 total yards. Carter Pettigrew rushed for 141 yards and a pair of touchdowns in the loss for Lawrence County. First loss for Lawrence County under their new coach, Garrick Barnett. The Wildcats falling to 4-1 overall, 0-1 in region play. Columbia Central improving to 2-2 overall, 1-0 in region play. And this game was stopped with about 2.5 minutes left. Demetrius Silva, a receiver for Lawrence County, sustained a neck/back injury, had to be carted off by first responders and transported to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'm told that he is doing okay. It was diagnosed as a stinger, but that game was stopped at that time. So Columbia Central with the 38-22 win over Lawrence County to round out Week 5 action down here in southern Middle Tennessee. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see y'all later this week.
Thanks, Maurice. Now here's Calvin White in Northwest Middle Tennessee with some help from students at Austin Peay State University to tell us how their teams fared last week.
Hello everybody, this is Calvin White, Northwest Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps, here to give you a quick recap of all the Week 5 high school football scores in Montgomery, Robertson, and Houston County. We're going to start over in Robertson County, On Thursday night, Ezel Harding wins 35-21 over Joe Burns. Ezel Harding running back Terrace Smith went for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns on 13 carries on the ground. Kavion Broxton exited that one early for Joe Burns with an injury, but still managed to run for 130 yards and a touchdown. Also on Thursday night, Portland shut out Greenbrier 38-0. And moving into Friday night action, Springfield squeaked out a 29-28 win over East Nashville on the road. The Yellow Jackets remain undefeated on the year at 5-0. East Robertson went on the road to Kirkwood and got its biggest win of the year. They win 28-24 over the Cobras. East Robertson came from behind and survived 2 turnovers, a blocked punt, a 10-point deficit, and a weather delay to come back and beat the Cobras on the road. White House Heritage loses its second game in 3 weeks. They fall 17-14 to Watertown. Watertown quarterback Garrett Davis found the end zone with a little over a minute left to put the Purple Tigers in front and clinched that win over the White House Heritage Patriots. Westmoreland beat White House 31-28 in overtime. Cheatham County shuts out Innovation Academy 26-0. Now moving into Houston County, the Fighting Irish fell 24-20 to McEwen, despite Preston Mitchell's 144 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Now moving into Montgomery County, like I mentioned a second ago, Kirkwood fell 28-24 to East Robertson. Montgomery Central loses 37-14 to Hickman County. Clarksville Academy went on the road to Friendship Christian. They hung with the Commanders early, but ended up falling 42-26. Pearl Cone wins 19-0 over Kenwood. That game was called at halftime due to weather. And finally, James Lawson beats Northeast 24-21. The Lightning win that one on a game-winning field goal. Now we're going to kick it over to Grady Cox from Austin Peay. He's going to give you a quick recap of Clarksville's 56-0 win over McGavock. I'm Calvin White. I'll talk to you again soon.
It was a region matchup at Clarksville High tonight as the 2-2 Wildcats hosted 1-3 McGavock Raiders. First drive of the game, number 40 Elijah Ligon, on his first ever rushing attempt for CHS, takes it in from 6 yards out to put the Wildcats up 7-0. Next Clarksville drive, number 7 Jamarcus Watkins breaks the plane for the 8-yard score. McGavock would try to battle back with quarterback Braden Garner connecting with number 15 Samari Armstead for the big gain. But the story of the night was the CHS defense and number 7 Jamarcus Watkins. Watkins had 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half, including this 84-yard house call, but he was also getting it done on the defensive side of the ball with a pick 6 late in the second quarter. This one was all Clarksville tonight with the final score 56-0. With the win, Clarksville High moves to 3-2 on the year while McGavock falls to 1-4. Next week, Clarksville High travels to West Creek while McGavock travels to Rossview. Once again, the score from CHS tonight, Clarksville High 56, McGavock 0. I'm Grady Cox reporting.
Thank you to Calvin and the Austin Peay students for that great report. We're going to stop here for a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
When the arena lights dim for a concert, or when the crowd becomes one at a big game, you can almost feel like you're the biggest fan. But who's your biggest fan? It's the person that will get you home safely after a night of drinking. It's the person who looks out for your life to make sure you leave the stadium with someone sober. This could be a designated driver or someone who offers to get you a ride share. Because in Tennessee, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, a division of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security.
We are back, and that means Blaine Kellar is up with the results from last week's games in North Central Middle Tennessee.
Gallatin quarterback Jackson Straup will miss the remainder of his senior season after a fractured tibia and a possible meniscus tear against Green Hill. Here to give you the latest on Straup and the Green Wave, as well as happenings and scores in Sumner, Davidson, and Williamson counties, I'm North Central Regional Sports Editor Blaine Kellar. Straup went down in the second quarter of Gallatin's 46-13 region loss to Green Hill. He was transported to the hospital shortly after taking a hit against the Hawks. Had an MRI scheduled for Monday, but Straup posting on social media Saturday night that his senior season is over, his high school career is over, and a historic one for the VMI commitment, who was Gallatin's all-time and single-season leader in passing yardage and passing touchdowns. Riley Ridings, a senior, stepped in for Gallatin, again, the 46-13 final against Green Hill. Coach Michael Straub went to the hospital with Jackson, and he was replaced by Coach Paul Pitts. Other action across Sumner County included Portland blanking Greenbrier 38-0 on Thursday night. Beach beating Upperman by a score of 42-27. Caden Powell had a monster running game in that one. Hendersonville now has back-to-back wins. James Beasley and company dominated Hunter's Lane 48-0 the final on homecoming. Westmoreland outlasted White House 31-28 in a wild game. White House rallied to send it to overtime, tied things at 28 apiece, and Braxton Cook hit the go-ahead walk-off field goal in OT to help the Eagles pick up their third straight win. Some unfortunate losses across Sumner County included Station Camp. After a 3-0 start, the Bison have lost back-to-back games, this one being a 35-29 defeat against the Blue Devils, who stayed unbeaten. Goodpasture shocked Division II AA Middle Region 1 week after JP2 looked to be a top 3 contender for the region title. The Cougars defeated the Knights 30-21. Other game in the county, it was Whites Creek, a 20-14 winner over Liberty Creek. Going into Davidson and Williamson counties, wanted to shout out DCA about that rushing attack for the Wildcats. Riley Biddle had 218 yards and 2 touchdowns, and King Gardner had 121 yards and 3 scores himself, as the Wildcats defeated first-year TSSAA member Franklin Christian Academy, final of 43-28. DCA picked up a big win in region play there. Ensworth throttled Lipscomb Academy 56-8. It's the third straight win for Taylor Hasselback, Matt Hasselback, Tim Hasselback, and the Tigers. Last one we've got here, Baylor blew by CPA and landed the Lions at 1-4. Really brutal schedule, as we've mentioned, for CPA, and that continues as the D2 AAA slate marches on. All of these stories and more can be found in the Gallatin News, Hendersonville Standard, Portland Sun, and Main Street, Nashville. as well as MainStreetPreps.com. You can find it in print, you can find it online, you can find it here in video too. That's our wrap up, and get ready in a couple of days for our preview shows. We get ready for week 6 of the Tennessee high school football season.
Thanks, Blaine. David Wilson is going to run out the clock for us with this week's wraps over in East Middle Tennessee.
Everybody, this is David Wilson, East Middle Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps, here to give you a quick recap of all the Week 5 games across Wilson and Rutherford County this week. We'll start things off in Wilson County, where region play started for a handful of teams in Wilson County. We'll start in Division II Single A and in the Middle Region, as Friendship Christian rebounded from a loss last week to DeKalb County, and they opened up region play with a 42-26 win over visiting Clarksville Academy on homecoming at Pearl Field. Junior quarterback Blake Waldorf completed 9 of 11 passing for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. He also accumulated 51 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns, so 4 total touchdowns for the junior signal caller. He threw 2 touchdown passes to Braden Stringer, who collected 4 catches for 161 yards in the matchup against the Cougars. Freshman running back Ryder Walcott also ran for 2 scores, and he had 115 yards on the ground as Friendship Christian racked up 463 yards, of total offense against the Cougars defense to win its region opener. Also in Division II Single A in the Middle Region, it was Nashville Christian remaining undefeated on its season. They defeat MJCA 71-6 without the services of 5-star quarterback and Georgia commit Jared Curtis, who missed his 2nd consecutive game. It was Tate Mathis getting the start for Jeff Brothers Eagles yet again, and he completed 6 of 10 passing for 115 yards and 2 scores. Nashville Christian ran for 287 yards on the ground and 7 touchdowns in this one. MJCA was held to just 2 first downs on offense and scored its lone touchdown in the 4th quarter. Moving up to Class 6A in Region 4 6A, it was Green Hill getting off to a good start to its region slate. They were all over Gallatin by the final score of 46-13 on Friday night on the Hill. UT Martin commitment Cannon Burrows accumulated 372 yards of total offense. He completed 14 of 23 passing for 5 total touchdowns. In this one, he threw for 2 scores to Luke Parton in the 1st quarter. Also threw for a third to Luke Pfeiffer in the 3rd quarter, and he also ran for 2 scores. So Cannon Burrows all over the field. Zach Cartwright also added 80 yards rushing and a score late in the 4th quarter. Green Hill totaled 532 yards of offense against Gallatin Green Wave, who lost their quarterback Jackson Strop to a knee injury in the 2nd quarter. He's announced he will be out for the remainder of the season. Also in Region 4 6A, it was Cookeville picking up its first win of the season. They defeated Wilson Central by the final score of 34-6. Wilson Central drops its first matchup of the year and had its lowest offensive output of the season on Friday night against the Cavaliers. Chaz Morton scored their lone score in that one. In non-region action in Wilson County, it was Jefferson County coming to the Mid-State and defeating Mount Juliet at Roger Perry Field 27-21. Mount Juliet did score its first offensive touchdown of the season with J.J. Helm throwing a touchdown pass to Cooper Burgett. Tate Marabitz, their kicker, had 2 field goals and had a special teams touchdown in this one on a fake field goal. But as Mount Juliet, the Golden Bears drop into 0-5 on their season. In a wild and wacky one in Gallatin, it was Lebanon picking up a 35-29 win over Station Camp. Austin Harrison for the Blue Devils completed 14 of 22 passing, 160 yards and 2 scores in this one. He threw a 63-yard touchdown to Gavin Gregory late in this one as the Blue Devils moved to 5-0 on their season and remained undefeated. It's the best start since 1993. Then wrapping up in Wilson County, it was Watertown going on the road and defeating White House Heritage by a final score of 17-14. The Purple Tigers extend their winning streak to 3 consecutive games. It was Garrett Davis giving some late heroics to the Purple Tigers yet again. They had a last-minute touchdown where Davis runs it in and defeats the Patriots. White House Heritage kicker Curtis Qualls missed a 48-yard field goal at the buzzer to try to send this one to overtime. In Rutherford County, in Region 3 6A, it was Oakland picking up a 38-0 win over Siegel to remain undefeated on its season. Also in Region 3 6A, it was Riverdale 35-7 victors over Stewart's Creek, and it was Blackman remaining undefeated on its season, blanking Laverne by a final score of 49-0. Also, Smyrna picked up a 41-11 win over Rockville. In Class 1A, it was Eagleville defeating Cornersville by a final score of 34-6. And in private school ball in Division II Single A, it was MTCS 42-35 victors over Concord Christian. And it was Notre Dame defeating PCA by a final score of 28-21 in East Tennessee. That'll do it on the wrap up here for Week 5. We'll talk to you guys next week in the last week of September.
And that's it for this week's high school football wrap-up show. Here's a few quick programming notes from Main Street Media TV's coverage of high school, college, and professional football this season. You can find everything you need to know about our coverage and all of our shows on your local newspaper's social media pages or by downloading the Main Street Media TV app. And remember, the Main Street Media Radio gets your high school week started with our Thursday night Game of the Week audio broadcast featuring Wade Neely and Casey Patrick. They are on the call across Middle Tennessee, and you can catch them every Thursday night starting at 6:45 p.m. Also, set your calendar for our weekly high school football preview show featuring these same sports editors and reporters. They break down each week's matchups and get us all pumped up for the upcoming games. The preview show is scheduled for every Thursday at 1 p.m. during high school football season. All right, we'll see you right back here next week with the high school football wrap-up show on Main Street Media TV.